What's up, guys? My name is Tim. This is New Craft Workshop, and you have found our Beginners Woodworking series. We are already on episode 9 today. Every one of these episodes, we give you guys 3 simple shop projects that you can build with 3 shop tools or less. We use a drill. We use a miter saw. If you don't have a miter saw, feel free to use a handsaw and a miter box. And we use a nail gun. If you don't have a nail gun, hammer and nails. With those 3 simple tools, we build every single project on this particular series. They're all beginner friendly, and most of them are kid and grandkid friendly if you want to get them out in the shop with you as well. So 2 quick things, and we're going to get right to building. Number 1, last week's winner is right nowhere because we didn't hit the numbers. Every time we have one of these videos, we ask for a certain amount of likes, a certain amount of subscribers, and a certain amount of comments. If we can hit those numbers, I give someone randomly picked in the comments a shop tool around 30 to 50 bucks. We didn't hit the numbers last week, so there's no winner this week. So let's step it up, hit these numbers at the end of this video that I give you.
You can do it, come on!
And let's give away something next episode. Number 2, starting October 1st, we will have, well, technically they're available now, but we won't really start offering too many benefits until October 1st, but we're offering memberships to New Craft Workshop here on YouTube. I have a couple different levels. Each level comes with additional perks. Our most expensive membership is less than $10. If you have the ability and the desire to support our channel and what we're doing here, any and all support would be greatly appreciated. We're going to offer discounts on some of our merchandise, discounts on some of the products and plans we will have up on our website. And yes, I promise they are coming. I continue to run into some difficulties getting plans up. It's coming, I promise. We're going to do a live chat twice a month at bare minimum. There's going to be some other perks there that members only will get. And again, it's our way of asking you guys to support what we're doing here if you feel it is worthy. So that's it. That's all the talk today. Let's get right after build number 1. Okay, guys, let's get to project number 1. This is going to be that really rustic looking laundry room organizer. It's going to hold your iron and your ironing board and a couple cans of starch or spray or whatever. So I'm going to put up a cut list in a minute, and that cut list is going to be for dimensional lumber from the big box store. If you're using 1x4s and 1x6s from your local big box store for this project, the cut list is going to be exactly what you need to cut. After we're done with the cut list, I'm going to show you exactly how I measure pallet wood. It's easier to just leave the tape measure alone and put all of your material out, lay it out, and mark where your cuts need to go. Pallet wood fluctuates so much in dimensions that it's easier just to do it that way. So, cut list. 1x4s. For the back, we are going to need 3 pieces at 22 inches long. For our shelf, we're going to need a 1x6, 10.5 inches long. We're going to need 2 pieces of 1x4 for the side. Those are going to be cut at 6 1/4. And we're going to need a 1x4 for the bottom to kind of stabilize the 3 pieces on the back. That piece is also going to be cut at 10.5 inches long. If you are not using dimensional lumber and you're using pallet wood, let me show you what we've done here. We've taken our 3 pieces that are going to make up the back. We've cut these to 22 inches. We've taken our shelf, which is about a 6-inch wide board. We simply laid a board across the top of here and we measured our 2 sides and we marked them. We cut this to that width. This width right here on pallet wood is 10 1/8 of an inch. Instead of measuring that, just lay your board across here, put your pencil mark on either end, cut this for the bottom of your shelf.
It's that easy.
And for this build, here's your tool list. We're going to need our drill with a couple bits. We're going to need a 1 1/4 inch Forstner bit or spade bit, depending on what you prefer. We're going to need our driver because we are going to be using some screws in this particular project. Of course, you're going to need your tape measure. You're going to need some inch long screws. You're going to need some wood glue. You need some brad nails. That's pretty much it. And your saw, because we do want to cut everything to length, I guess, so a saw might be pretty important as well. So that's it. Let's get after this build. So the shelves are going to the shelf is going to go together like this. These three components are going to make your shelf. There's no need to put a front on this. We're going to glue this and tack this together with some brads, and then we are going to screw it in from the back. We do want this thing to be pretty stable. It's going to have an iron on it. We're going to assemble this portion prior to putting this on here. And as far as your pallet wood, the way I measured these shelves, same way. Instead of measuring this distance, here's a piece right here. I just put my shelf in place, put a piece of pallet wood on the side, put my mark right here, cut these two to length, and that's it for the side of these shelves. Now, there is a fresh end that is cut. We want that to the back of our shelf so that we can keep that rustic look around the front. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to assemble this shelf. So these three components are going to go together just like this. Let's move this out of the way. We are going to glue this and tack this in place. Now, we're going to line up our front pieces right here so that when this is glued and tacked together, at least these three pieces are all flush on the front. So we're going to be using Titebond 2. This is going inside. There's no need for any kind of Titebond 3 waterproof glue out here. And we are going to be using some brads to hold it together until we get it mounted on the back piece. So first things first, let's put us a bead of glue here. And then we're going to take this piece again. Remember, our cut side is going to the back. So our rough side is going to get lined up with the front right here. Let me grab paper towels. And let's get this tacked in place. All right, and let's just repeat again, make sure fresh edge is to the back. And if you've never worked with pallet wood before, it is a great way to get some practice in out in your shop. Pallet wood, for the most part, is completely free. I have a company in my area that sets out a ton of pallets, and I have spoken with the management there, and make sure you speak with people before you just show up and start taking stuff. They have zero problem with me clearing them out. So every time I drive by there, I check to see what kind of pallets they've got out there, and most of the time I'm picking up some really good free lumber that I can get out in my shop and build some really rustic products with. If you're a beginner, it's great material to get out in your shop and try building projects with. If you mess up, it costs you nothing but your time and a few fasteners. So pallet wood, if you can find some in your area, definitely worth getting it done. All right, now that our shelf is built, we're going to flip these over because we do want to pre-drill and get this prepared for our shelf that's going to mount. And you might have to move, if you're using pallet wood, you might have to move this around just to kind of get the best fit. As you can see, there's going to be some gaps in here. That is part of the look that you're going for. I think this is going to be my best fit, even though there is a pretty big gap there. At least this looks a little more straight. So what we're going to do is we're going to come down 12 inches. I'm going to put a mark on each of these three boards. And right below that mark is where we are going to pre-drill and countersink. We are going to screw this shelf in because, again, we need some stability on this thing. So right below these three marks, we're going to pre-drill and countersink. Let me clarify what I meant there about right below those marks. So pallet wood, again, it's going to vary tremendously in thickness, width, length, etc. This particular board, I got lucky. This is actually 3/4 of an inch thick. So all I've done here is come down about 3/8 of an inch. I want my screw directly in the center of that board. So what we are going to do now is take these three boards and get them installed on our shelf. We're going to just make sure that we put these in the same order that we had them in. And all I'm going to do here is just kind of look down here and eyeball where this is. I want this centered in this board the absolute best I can get it. So we're going to put some glue here. And let me grab some screws. And I'm just using some deck screws. There's no need for any special kind of screw on this project. It's going indoors. If you have some construction screws or even some drywall screws would work. I just don't use a lot of drywall screws out here, but anything like that would work. And again, I am not even going to measure. I am going to install this, just kind of look down this board and line up my hole with the center of the board I'm drilling into. And let's drive this screw. If it would cooperate, that'd be nice. And let's repeat for the next two boards. Okay, shelf is installed. Now we're going to take that 10.5 piece and we're going to put it at the bottom. This is just to kind of stabilize and hold this entire assembly together better than just the 3 screws that are through the back. Same thing, we're going to flip this over. We're going to pre-drill and we're going to drive some screws in here. We're going to have to make sure that we use screws that are short enough to not go through our material. So if you're using 1x4s from the big box store, you have 1.5 inches here. If you countersink, I would say use a 1-inch long screw in these 3 holes right here. As a matter of fact, if you want to just buy a box of 1-inch screws, that would be more than enough for this as well if you're going to countersink first. So we're going to countersink 3 holes. We're going to follow the same process. We're going to glue and screw this particular board into place. Let's get after it. So, as sometimes happens here in the shop, things kind of change on the fly, and this is one of them. I am out of 1-inch long screws, and I'm not driving anything through here longer than that because I'll get them protruding on the back side. So I'm just going to tack them in place. The glue should hold it. All right, so at this point, this is what we have. Iron, shout, whatever you use is going to go up here. Now we need to find a way to get our ironing board to stay here. What we're going to do is we're going to take our 2 dowels and we are going to install them basically just like this. Iron is going to sit there and that is going to be enough to hold our particular ironing board. Now, every ironing board in the world is different. The way the legs are shaped, etc. I have taken measurements here. If yours sticks up further than the leg where you're going to hang this, just make sure that you accommodate that in your area here. Okay, so we are going to get these installed. 1 1/4 inch Forstner bit, since these are 1 1/4 inch dowels. And I am going to simply eyeball the center of each of these 2 boards. I do want to come up an even amount from here because we don't want 1 peg here and 1 peg there. Then our iron will be crooked. We don't want a crooked iron. We want a straight iron. So I'm simply going to measure up 1 1/4 inch from either side of this board. That will be the center of our hole. When we mount that, that'll be a nice height. Give us some room for our iron to hang. So, as always, put yourself some sort of backer board when you're using a big bit like a Forstner bit. You want to make sure that you have something there so you don't get blowout on the back of this material. So, again, I'm just going to kind of eyeball the center of these boards. I've already measured my distance from here. So we just need to drill some holes now.
No, I stay. I clean.
Okay, all that's left now are to get our dowels installed. We're going to glue these in place. Once the glue dries, it will be more than enough. Now, if you're using dimensional lumber from the big box store, you can leave these as is because your material is a lot cleaner, straight lines, straight edges, etc. This is very rustic. I want these to be as rustic as possible. So I'm going to just run over to my sander. And if you don't have a sander, you can do this by hand. If you have a palm sander, you can totally use that to do this as well. I'm literally just going to roughen this up. I might even take and put a couple gouges in this. I just want this to look as rustic as possible. And then I will wind up staining these prior to finishing this project. So I'll get these installed. We'll put a little stain on them, do our best to match up this grayed, weathered look of this particular board. So I'm going to run over the sander and I'm just going to roughen these up as much as I can. I hope this shows up on camera, but I just did my best to kind of make these look like they've been through it, you know? So there you go. Again, we're just going to glue these in place, and then I'm going to stain these afterwards before we hang it on the wall. So let's do a little bit of glue on the end of each one of these dowels. We're just going to put a little bit along the bottom, and then we're going to just rotate this into this hole. Make sure you kind of rotate it around, get that glue spread as good as possible. Just try to make sure that we're not too far protruding on the back side of this. Don't want that to keep it from mounting as flush as possible up against your wall. Same thing here, little glue, spin this into place. And then the only thing I really want to do here is make sure that my holes were fairly straight. Make sure that my dowels are also fairly straight. Clean up your glue now because especially on pallet wood, when it dries, it's a whole lot more difficult to get off. All right, that's it. Project number one, this really rustic laundry room organizer. Ironing board, a couple cans of spray, whatever you want to put up there. Make it your own. I tell you guys that all the time, but I'm serious. Take this concept, customize it, make it better than I made it today. Seriously, this is a beginner's build. If you've got the skill set to make it better than this, do it. That's what I want from you guys. So project one is in the books. It's time to get on to project number two. Okay, let's get after build two. This build is going to be one of, if not the most basic build we've ever done here, even on our beginners series. This is that kind of whimsical, crafty looking picture holder. Can't call it a frame because it's not really a frame, but that you just saw in the intro video. This is going to be a project that is extremely beginner friendly, but this one's also kid friendly. So kids and grandkids can get out in the shop with you and help make this for their own room. So let's get right after this. 5 minutes max. Cut list. You're going to need 2 pieces of a 1x2 cut to 14 inches. You're going to need 8 slats cut to 12 inches, and you're going to need 4 wooden clothespins. For those of you who have not watched my channel before or don't know what a slat is, they are 1/4 inch thick, usually 1.5 inches wide. You can buy them as slats in the lumber department, or you can purchase a yardstick or a paint stirrer. A yardstick will give you 3 12-inch pieces of slat because there's 3 feet in a yard. Or you can pick up some paint sticks for really cheap at the paint department and simply cut off the end that they've kind of cut to look like a handle. But as far as this build, we're going to lay our 1x2s out, and then we are going to randomly spread these pieces across this to give it the look, simulated look of an old fence. Now, as you can see in the video, we kind of decorated ours up a little bit, but this is kind of the basic concept, and don't let the kids get to you if they don't put these on perfectly straight, because that's what we want. We want this kind of crooked and old and decorative looking. This is it. We are simply going to put a dab of glue underneath each one of these slats, and then we're going to tack it in place. If you don't have a nail gun, hopefully your kids can use a hammer and nail. And if you don't feel comfortable with them using a hammer and nail, glue this in place, put something on it to allow this to have some weight and have that glue set up overnight. This will hold up just fine just by gluing this in place. So again, all we're going to do is in each one of these connection points where this is touching here, we're just going to put a little dab of glue and we're going to tack this in place. That's the whole concept of this. I'm actually going to speed this video up and we're going to knock this out real quick and then we'll get those clothespins glued on. Okay, so could it be any more simple? At this point, we have our basic frame done, and as you can see, when this goes on the wall, it's going to kind of have that handmade, homemade, fun look about it. Clothespins. We are not even going to bother tacking these in place. We're going to put a little bit of wood glue down the back of each one of these clothespins, and we're going to set this in place. And I am going to just do some random locations. You can use as many clothespins here as you want. This is by far the most basic build that I have even considered doing on this series. And the reason I wanted to do this today and show you guys something simple like this is because I have had some requests from people in the comments about projects that they can get their kids involved with. This is a very kid-friendly thing. And as you could see in the picture, once it's painted and some pictures are on it, it's actually kind of cool looking. So project 2, I think we just set a record for the fastest video. So let's go ahead and keep that record going and wrap it up right now. Let's get to project number 3. Okay, let's get to project 3, this kind of cool little coffee mug and coffee organizer that's hanging up on the wall now. So before we get started, you'll notice in that video, it's definitely made a little nicer than what we're going to build in today's little section of this episode. Because what do I always tell you guys that I'm sure you're tired of hearing right now? Make it your own. I'm going to give you a blueprint for a basic design, and then it's up to you to customize it. And as I always tell you, build it better than I show on here. That's the whole purpose, is for you guys to be better than beginners so you can start watching and participating in the intermediate series. I know, shameless plug. That is next Friday. So we're going to get started today. We are using 1x4s from the big box store, nothing else. And as the build progresses, you'll see some cuts and you'll see the edges are going to be routed and stuff like that. That's because I'm making this for us. And if you are at that skill level and have the tools, do it. Customize the thing. Make it awesome. And please, one more quick thing before we build. Send me your pictures. I really want to start every time we do one of these episodes, posting at the end of every video 3 or 4 builds from you guys. I'd like to share what you're building with the community if you're up for it. Send me some photos. Instagram, Facebook, email me through the website. I'll put all of those links down in the description of this video. I really want to see what you guys are building. I started this channel for one purpose and one purpose only.
Only one thing.
To grow this community of beginner and intermediate woodworkers. I am loving what I do, and I'm loving the reception you guys are giving me. So share those photos and let's become a little more interactive with each other. So let's get to the build. Cut list. You're going to need 2 pieces of 1x4, 14 inches long. You're going to need 4 pieces of 1x4, 28 inches long. And then you're going to need 2 pieces of 1x4 at 4 inches long. That's it. So we are going to get this build started with weight. I almost forgot to tell you, here's our tool list for this one. Of course, you're going to need your drill. We are going to put a few screws in this because we want this to hold. It's going to hold a little bit of weight with the coffee and some mugs up there. So we're going to screw some of this stuff together. You're going to need your brad nailer if you have one, if not, hammer and nails. You're going to need some fasteners, brads, screws, and your glue, of course. And you are going to need a saw to cut all of this to length. That's it. Let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to determine that one end is our top, one end is our bottom.
Duh.
Right? All right, let's assemble. First thing we need to do is we need to pre-drill some screw holes to get our first piece mounted on. So we're just going to flip this over. And at the top of this thing, we're going to have this board. This is what it's going to look like from the front. We've just flipped it over. We're working on the back. If you'll lay this board out and square up all of your pieces with each other, make sure they're nice and flush. Put your board right here. Draw yourself a pencil line. You know that anything on this side of that pencil line is going to be into this board. So we are going to put this on top of here, and we are going to put another board underneath here just to kind of keep everything nice and level. And we're going to center again our board underneath here, because we are going to pre-drill both of these. We're going to pre-drill through this and into this so that both of the holes are lined up the way that we want them, so that when we screw this together, it's nice and square on the front. So one in the middle of each one will be more than enough. And that is the top. As you can see, this is already a whole lot more stable. That's exactly what we want. Now, I'm going to spin this around, and we are going to build our shelf. Now, our shelf is going to consist of a shelf and then these two brackets. And I am going to actually put this together off of here prior to putting it back on here. Did I say that right? We're going to assemble it here, and then we will mount this as a completed assembly onto our back piece. So this is going to go together fairly simply. We're going to do the same exact thing. We're going to line up our ends right here. We are going to pre-drill and countersink into this. Drive one screw between that and the glue. That's going to be more than enough to hold this in place. So let's get some screws in here. And if you don't feel comfortable doing what I did, which is just hold this in place, eyeball it, and drill your countersink to line this up, just grab your tape measure. These boards are 3/4 of an inch thick, so we need to be in the center of that, which is 3/8. Flip this over, put yourself a mark at 3/8. That'll assure you're in the center of this board. We need to be as close to the middle as we can. We don't want our screw popping out either side. That's no fun to fix. So let's get these two assembled with some glue and some screws, and then we'll get on to the next step. All right, our shelf is complete, and now we just need to get this attached to here. We're going to do this with the same thing. I'm going to put a couple screws through each side, and then along the bottom right here, I'm just going to tack this in place with some brad nails. The screws are going to give it enough support. The only thing this thing is really going to be holding is a can of coffee and maybe some creamer or something along those lines. So we're going to flip this over, and we are going to pre-drill. Same thing. Let me get a scrap piece of wood here to put underneath here. We are going to pre-drill. Now our shelf is going to mount here, so if you need to mark this out where you want your screws, you can just kind of roughly mark this out, and you'll know that your screws just need to go somewhere in this area. Again, I'm just going to put one in either side, tack the bottom, but we definitely want to use some wood glue, get this thing nice and seated. And when that glue is dry, that's going to do most of the support anyway. So pre-drill, glue, screws, tack a couple brads in each one of these, and then the shelf is done. Okay, so at this point, we're almost finished. This thing is looking great. The only thing left to do is to put our hooks. Now, I knew I brought a mug out here. So, what we're going to do is we're going to put 2 hooks up here and 2 hooks down here, and then that's going to leave us the rest of this room for this. Now, if you are a little anal,
Please talk about anal retentive.
and you don't like these hooks offset like this, and you want them in the middle of a board, feel free. Just know that your coffee mugs are going to be offset. I'm trying to center this mug in these 2 boards. Let me show you over here. Hopefully you can see on this side. I am trying to center when this mug hangs in these 2 boards. If we center this hook, our mug is going to hang off a little bit. Now, the other way around this is to build the shelf a little wider. Build it 5 boards wide, and then you can put this in the middle of board 2 and this in the middle of board 4, and then you'll have another board over here so that everything is very symmetrical. I don't mind my hooks being off slightly. I want my mugs straight. So I'm going to just kind of eyeball this and figure out where these need to go. And then I'm going to take a measurement from the inside of that board. I am 1 inch exactly. So that's where I'm going to make my marks, and that's where I'm going to hang my first hook. I'm simply going to pre-drill these with a really, really small bit, because the screws that come with this particular hook, these are really small. I think these are probably number 6. They might be number 8s, but they're really tiny. Probably don't even need to pre-drill, but I'm going to be safe. So let's get these 4 hooks mounted. We're going to do 2 here. Once I hang this hook, I can get an idea where I want my second row of hooks, and then that's going to leave us the rest of this for some storage. So let's get it. Project 3. In the books. Functional, easy to build. This might make a good gift. Christmas is not too far away. This might make a good gift for friends and family. Expandable, make it wider. Like I always tell you guys, bigger, taller, shorter, smaller, make it your own, right? This is 4 cups for us. If you want more than 4 cups, make it your own. So that's it for our 3 projects this week. Another beginner's video in the books. Now, don't go anywhere just yet, because we need to talk about 2 quick things. One, let me pop up here what we can do, not even what I'm asking you for, what I know we can do to give something away in next episode. I need this many subscribers, this many thumbs up, and this many comments. You can do this, guys. I know you can. It's not that difficult. If you're new to my channel, click that subscribe button. We have a lot of fun here. We build some really cool stuff in the beginner series. And the second thing I want to talk to you about is episode 1 was last week of our intermediate series. It was very well received. Thank you guys so much for that. I hope that that format sticks. I like the way we did things on our end. I hope you enjoyed watching it on your end. If you haven't watched it yet, head over there and watch it. It's about the same length as these, 20 to 30 minutes, and we do a completely different format than we do here on the beginners channel. And if you don't consider yourself intermediate, it doesn't matter. There's still a lot to learn there. We kind of do like a little section where we talk about tools and tips and stuff. There's a lot to learn, so head on over and watch that video as well. Let's hit these numbers. Let's give away something next week. And as always, I truly appreciate you spending a few minutes of your time with me today. And that's it. We'll catch you on YouTube.